Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast hosted by Jake Bolden. Don't miss another Tuesday episode by subscribing to the podcast on all streaming platforms or catch our visual presentation uploaded every week on YouTube. Don't miss our upcoming ticket giveaways by subscribing and following on all Blue Raider Podcast social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Blue Raider Pod. Welcome to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast, and as that intro said, I am your host, Jake Bolden, and a happy week one, Blue Raider fans, to college football season. So much anticipation for this first week one matchup against Tennessee Tech, and I'll have plenty of information for you on that matchup later in the episode. But first, we're going to meet our new women's golf coach, Lauren Wamsley, as she prepares for her first season in Murfreesboro. They've got a lot of young talent on that roster, and Coach Wamsley is poised for a really strong fall for those ladies as they go up against strong competition. And then next, I'll speak with long tenure cross country and track and field coach Keith Vroman. His cross country season actually begins this Saturday as well in Memphis, and he will be able to answer that age-old question of can we break the curse of the even number years and go back-to-back in the CUSA cross country titles. And then lastly, as I alluded to, we'll have a conversation, go behind enemy lines with Tennessee Tech. They have Dylan Vazzano, the voice of the Golden Eagles, and he'll break down the game plan as well as that roster under their new coach, Bobby Wilder. Much anticipated matchup and a lot of great information. So make sure you stick around to the end for that interview. And then lastly, we will have the Raider wrap-up at the very tail end of the episode. But before I roll Coach Wamsley's interview, it is time to announce our winner for our giveaway of the 2 sideline chairback seats for this Saturday's matchup against the Golden Eagles. I'm doing all of this in post-production, so as I'm reading this, I don't have a winner, but I will post it right here for you. If you see your name here, keep an eye out on your social medias. I'll be reaching out to you on the Tuesday that this episode premieres. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'll still be reaching out to you. So make sure you don't miss that message and claim your prize for those 2 chairback sideline seats for this Saturday matchup. And if you missed the giveaway, you weren't able to enter, no fear. We will run another one shortly, but so you don't miss it, make sure you're following all of our social media accounts. That's Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, at Blue Raider Pod. And of course, if you're on YouTube, we'll also post entries onto our YouTube page here at Blue Raider Podcast. So I won't keep you waiting any longer. It's time to roll into that first interview with Coach Lauren Wamsley, and here you go. Joining us now is the newest addition to the MTSU roster of coaches after spending 9 seasons at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. She is the 2018 Western Athletic Conference Coach of the Year after leading the Lopes to a conference championship and an NCAA berth. I'm happy to be joined by Lauren Wamsley, not Gesicki, right, Coach?
That's right. Changing it over, switching.
Absolutely. Well, we were just chit-chatting here before. You got married 2 years ago, so those that might be familiar with the name, it's now changing on us, but no big deal there. But, Coach, how are you settling into Murfreesboro?
Oh, it's been amazing. The transition's been awesome. Everyone is so helpful, so kind. We just absolutely love it here. We moved in 2 weeks ago now, so we're getting there. All the boxes are unpacked and just ready to get started.
Absolutely. Well, you settled in 9 years there, and it's an entirely change of scenery. Like you're going from the desert and you're going here to the mixed climate that we have here. I'm sure the humidity is something that you've noticed already.
Yes, definitely. I think the first day I was here, we had that tornado that went through campus. So that was a bit of a shock. So, but, being from Indiana, I'm kind of used to the humidity, and it is nice to get back into the 4 seasons and experience the different weather patterns and stuff like that. So,
and tell me a little bit about the transition from the coaching perspective. You go 9 seasons at Grand Canyon, you're comfortable there, but what led you to find the job here at MTSU?
Yeah, so I actually had a couple of friends. They reached out about the position opening up, and it really piqued my interest. Just moving back towards this side of the country, that was always the top priority for us. And then I just know the program. I know the area. It's a great spot. 30 minutes outside Nashville, like you can't beat that. But just to have an opportunity to continue the growth here and the strong athletics that we have here at MTSU, that was something that I just couldn't turn down. I was really excited about.
From a family perspective, I know you said that you're from Indiana, right? As far as family perspective, does this put you closer to your roots?
It does, yeah. So I'm about 5.5 hours from my parents, about 7 from my sister and her family. So way better than a 4-hour flight out to Phoenix.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, let's talk a little bit about this new team that you're kind of getting acquainted with. I know you said you moved just 2 weeks ago, but I think you're pretty fortunate with the group that you got. They didn't have the year that they wanted last year. They had an injury to now senior Kendall Maynard, but you have a lot of youth that had a lot of promise. Like Ella Manley is the namely the one I'm thinking of. But Coach, you're getting acquainted with these new girls. Tell me a little bit about what that's been like for you.
It's been great. They actually were all in town about a week and a half ago. Well, 7 of them. So I was able to have lunch with them, kind of just get to know them a little bit. And they're so fun. They have so much personality. And you could tell they're just so excited. They're ready to get going. They just want to get out there and play. And they know our tournament schedule coming up. So they're ready to compete with some of the best in the country. So, for a coach, that's like literally all I could ask for is just people who are ready to get going. They have such a strong love for the game and they want to compete that, for me, it's going to be a very easy transition for sure.
How does that work as far as creating that dynamic with your players? Because golf's a little bit different than other sports, team sports per se, because it is technically individual, but you still put out a 5 team front. Tell me the dynamic there as far as one evaluating new players. I'm sure you can look at scores from last year and do some evaluation, but how does a new coach evaluate her roster just showing up 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, so kind of probably similar to what you've done, but looking at previous stats, that definitely helps. But they've been playing a ton this summer, so I've been able to see scores and keep track of them. They've had great tournaments over the course of the summer, so that's really, really promising and super exciting. But we actually played against each other last year over in Vegas, so I was able to see their scores there. Obviously, you mentioned the injury, so I wasn't able to see Kendall, but just looking at the team, their scores over the summer, that really helps me kind of judge where we're going to be. I think we're in a great spot. We have a couple freshmen coming in that they're ready to get going. I just saw them today. So, overall, I'm very, very excited for everybody on the team. They've been playing a ton this summer and having great scores over the course of the summer.
And moving into the fall, as far as practicing going, how does things kind of come together with this group? What does that schedule look like for these girls? Because really, your season doesn't technically start till spring, but the fall is vital to their success in the spring.
Oh, big time. Yeah. So we have 5 tournaments this fall, and they're all very, very good teams, really good schedule set. So it's going to be a big, important chunk of our time. So once they get here, in a week, I guess, we're going to do some qualifying. We'll do practices. We'll, start workouts and all that kind of stuff, team meetings. It'll be a lot on them, but they're used to it by now. So they're going to be ready to jump right in. But those 5 tournaments that will count for our ranking. And this year we are adding in the 500 rule. So there's a couple things that are going to come into play for us and in our ranking and our season. But, overall, I think they're just very, very excited about the level of tournaments that we're playing in and competing in. So it's just going to up their game. And even those who don't get to travel the first tournament or 2, they're going to be at home. They're going to be practicing and working hard, and they want to get in the lineup. They want to push themselves. So, everybody on the team from 1 to 9, they're going to be pushing it hard. So it'll be good.
Coach, one part there was the 500 rule. Can you kind of break that down? Because that's news to me. Can you break that down to me? Kind of explain that to me.
Yeah, so at the end of the season, in order to go postseason, you do have to be above 500. So your win-loss record, which for golf it's a little crazy. In my previous school, I think we're 144 and 21. So it's something that you just have to keep an eye on throughout the season. But once you set your schedule, that's it. You can't add or subtract anything. So it's going to be tough. But as long as we're beating the teams that we need to beat, that's all that matters. Once we get to conference, again, if you win conference, you do go postseason no matter what. So there's a lot of avenues for us to go postseason. It's just something that probably this first year, I think a lot of coaches are going to be kind of treading the water a little bit and seeing what works, what doesn't work. Just trial and error, I guess.
Okay, well, go back there on you talk about your fall schedule, and you got quite the host schools like Kentucky, Louisville, Vanderbilt. You're going all the way to Denver, and then of course you're in Knoxville with Tennessee. Those are the host institutions. So you obviously be going up against plenty of other institutions as well. But I know in a release earlier that you had said that this is a stacked fall, and it's going to be a real test for your girls.
Yes. So we're going to see some of the top teams in the country just at the beginning, which is awesome because that's who we would see postseason. So it's a great test and it'll be a good show for us. I think we'll be right there. We're going to be competitive. I don't see any reason for us to, be intimidated or anything like that just because they have a little bit bigger name maybe for some. So I'm excited. It's going to be a good field. It'll be a great opportunity for us to jump up in the rankings, all the above. So it's a great opportunity for us.
And I'm sure you'd agree that playing with a greater level of competition just always seems to elevate yours. Much like golf does, it's a very mental game, and just being surrounded by that kind of competition just elevates it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The better competition that you're around, just the better off you're going to be anyway. So, we always like to rise to the occasion, and I think we're going to do that this whole year, this whole fall, even into the spring. The spring's going to be a good schedule. We haven't quite posted that just yet. Still working on it a little bit, but we're going to continue this good, strong field of schedule into the spring as well.
And I know you're still kind of feeling things out, and having met some of the girls. I know you mentioned that you had gone to lunch with them. Is there anyone that you kind of that sticks out? Like, because golf again is an interesting sport as far as you're your own individual. But are any leaders kind of sticking out to you? Anyone about the team that you just kind of stands out at first?
Yeah. So Abby, she has a big leadership role here on campus. She's in SAC. She's been doing a phenomenal job. Ella actually has reached out quite a bit. She kind of sets the like team group chat and stuff like that. And she had a ton of questions at lunch. So she has a lot of personality. But honestly, every single one of them just had like a cool, unique personality to them. So I'm just excited to get to know them a little bit better. And we're going to spend a lot of time together. So I'll get to know them very quickly. But I guess just right off the bat, those two were, pretty energetic and a lot of personality off the get-go.
Yeah, and Ella was she broke a freshman program record with her average strokes last year, just slightly over 71. And her being a sophomore now, it's kind of it's good to see that level of enthusiasm from someone so young.
Definitely, and you can just tell she's a player that wants to just get better and better. She is not going to let up no matter what. So, I haven't seen her play, but I can just tell from her personality that's just the type of golfer we're going to see.
Absolutely. And talked about the two freshmen coming in. I've got Bradley Krause, who's coming in from Kingston, and then Caroline Pardue, who's just down the road at Providence Christian Academy. You've got a two-time state champion in Pardue, and then a state runner-up. Tell me a little bit about those two. I know you just said you just met them. One thing, it's different again when you have them commit prior with the old coach. Now you've got the new coach. Where do they kind of fit into the whole dynamic of the roster?
Yeah, they fit in very well. They're great recruits. I'm very, very excited to have them as freshmen. Carolina she's local. She's had a really, really successful junior career. She's played in some of the biggest tournaments you can as a junior. So, and like you said, state champs, all that kind of stuff. That's just, huge, huge things to add to their resume. So I don't see any issue with either one of them coming in and jumping into the college world. It's obviously somewhat of a little bit of a challenge, for freshmen, but with their backgrounds, I don't see that being an issue. I think they're going to jump in. They're going to be highly competitive. I know they want to play. I know they want to get in there right away. They're kind of just itching right now. Just talking to them today. So I'm very, very excited to have those two on the team.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you prepare young girls like that for that transition? Because I know that they both have a pedigree of junior golfers very high, but how do you prepare them for that next level? Because it happens at all sports. You're the best at where you are, and then you go to the next level, and now you're facing the best of everyone else from where they're from. So how do you prepare those young players?
True. It's always tough. And honestly, it's a lot to deal with them. and their, eagerness to compete. It's tough because, some of these seniors, they're 21, 22 years old. They have a lot of years and a lot of experience on them. But that's also the cool thing for freshmen, right? They don't really know what they're getting into. They don't understand the situation completely. So they're kind of coming into it just ready and excited. And I think that's both of them. I think they're just going to come in. And like I said, they played in those tournaments, and those yardages are what we see in college. So it's not going to be a big difference for them. The only thing, it would just be, traveling, adding in school, adding in a college degree to that. That's just the stuff that they're going to have to get used to. And, as a coach, that's where I come in. I try to help them as best as I can, navigate those crazy roads and the unknowns that we're going to come into. But on the golf course, I think they're going to do perfectly well.
Well, good stuff, Coach. Before we finish up our call here, I just wanted to get your take on your expectations this year. I know that, like I said, you finished the program finished 7th in Conference USA last year. You're returning your top scorer, as well as Kendall Maynard coming back from injury. I hope, at least I assume that would be the status. What are your expectations for this year? What's considered a successful year for year one?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people have asked me that, and I have really, really high expectations, I think. So, which is a good thing, in my opinion. Our goal, we want to win a tournament this year. I think that's very achievable. I've seen the schedule that we're going to have. But the biggest thing is I really want us to grow as a team, and I want that culture to be set. Just for years to come. And we have the seniors, we have the juniors, we have those upperclassmen to set that for us. So I'm not worried about that at all. I just, I hope that transitions onto the golf course very easily, which I think it will. But, personally for me, I definitely want to get to conference, and, I want to disrupt a lot of things at conference. So I know all those teams that we play. I've played against them years before. So I know they're all very talented, but we're just as talented. Like you said, we have players coming back from injury. We have new incoming freshmen. We have kind of just like a new fun outlook just with my coaching style. So I think we're going to come in and surprise a ton of people, which I'm very, very excited about. So, for me, finishing, in that top part of the field at conference, that's something that I think we all will want from this team. And you know what? I do think there's a chance that we're going to go out there and we could win it. So I wouldn't put anything past us. I think it's going to be a very good, fun year for us. And I'm just excited to get it started.
That's great to hear, Coach. And a lot of us are certainly excited for you and your first year here, and as you get settled in, and we're excited to see, again, what some of this young talent's capable of doing, and look towards a conference championship in your near future. So, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to join us, and we hope to hear from you again in the spring.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
The BRP is proudly partnered with Rivals Network affiliate GoMiddle.com. Subscribe for premium content for all the inside scoop on MTSU athletics, recruiting, or join our free forums to discuss today's episode and all things Blue Raiders. The BRP is also partnered with the College Huddle, a nationwide collaborative effort with over 80 Division I programs represented. Check out the website at thecollegehuddle.com to catch up on all college football content with daily articles and episodes provided by the largest college podcast community on the internet. We are now joined by a long tenure cross-country track and field coach who has spent the last 15 seasons with the Blue Raiders. Going into his second season as head coach, we are previewing his cross-country squad and a little bit into his indoor track and field squad. Joining us is head coach Keith Vroman. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent stuff, Coach. Well, as I said there, we're going to preview a little bit into your cross-country indoor track and field season, but one thing just to kind of get it off the top here, Dean Hayes, it was announced over the summer that he would be inducted into the MTSU Hall of Fame, and you were a part of the back half of his career and obviously the end of his life. But Dean Hayes has left his mark on MTSU track and field, and you were a part of that. And I'd love to hear your a little anecdote if you have one, or a little bit on Dean Hayes for that matter.
Well, I love my time with Dean Hayes. Miss him to this day, but he was a great mentor for me. We worked together since 2003. We've been together. I was a GA to begin with, and then came in full-time assistant and worked my way up. But so our time together has been invaluable with the recruiting side of stuff, with the coaching side of stuff, with life side of stuff. Um, couldn't ask for a better mentor for all those years.
And he's been a big part of track and field, not just at MTSU, but just in general. He's left his mark in a lot of places. And too, you talked about the recruiting side of things. As far as what he was capable of doing and bringing in a lot of guys, international players for that perspective as well. Tell me, how does that work? What are some things in regards to what he's taught you on the recruiting aspect? Because this team always, not only on the cross country side, but track and field as well, is always very, very successful. You've got a lot of pieces that you're able to piece from not only in America, but obviously international. So what is that like as far as recruiting?
Well, the big thing is building relationships. I think Coach Hayes did a phenomenal job of building relationships for the last 57 years. So it's about building relationships with coaches and teachers and just connections to other places around the world, bring the international recruit and even domestic. I mean, the majority of the domestic recruits we receive are from connections that we have in life. I'm sure you're going to jump into Eleanor Tao in a little bit, but he was at Eastern Kentucky. Her coach was an Eastern Kentucky alumni. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter where you come from. Those connections you build throughout life are the ones that help in the recruiting process. Even the first internationals that I recruited, I was teammates with international guys. And then when I became a coach, my teammates helped me get the first international students that I recruited.
And I'm sure that your current roster is another, like you mentioned, all those connections and stuff like that. How is the MTSU brand abroad? Like, is it well recognized?
Well, it's pretty well recognized. I mean, we get calls daily from internationals. We have about 15 countries currently represented on a men's and women's track cross country program. So, yeah, I mean, you can go pretty much anywhere and meet people
Absolutely. And MTSU as well. I know we had 5 represented in the Olympics this last summer, which is always great. As far as from that perspective, did you get to tune in? I'm sure you did. But as far as being a part of those athletes and their preparations, was that something that you ever took part in?
Well, this summer I just had a child 2 weeks ago. So during the Olympics, I had a baby. So this summer I was a little bit off. I was doing other things.
Sure.
Getting ready to have a baby, and I'm here today. I'm not always in my office right now, so I'm at home with my wife and newborn, and our other kids. So this summer's been a little bit different than most summers, so I haven't really had a big part in a lot of it.
Well, my next part was leading into that. I know that things have changed at home for you with the new child. That's one. Congratulations on that. But two, talk about it now. Now the lifestyle. I know you already have a kid, but now the lifestyle changing with a young one, and you got the cross country fall season. You're going to be leaning pretty heavily on the assistant coaches this upcoming fall.
Yeah, when my wife and I had our first child in 2017, that was one of our best seasons ever. So hopefully we can just repeat that. So I wasn't here much then. Coach Hayes was here at the time and did a good job of driving the athletes to practice. And they usually write the workouts up or whatever, and then they take them and get the workouts done. So yeah. So in 17, Coach Hayes was the primary one coaching the team in the beginning of the season. And it worked out. The end of the season, that was 2017 was one of our best years ever.
Well, to lean into that a little bit, then, one thing that's always been a mainstay for the success of the cross country track and field umbrella has been the cross country team. I know you swept last year with the men's and women's. You're replacing a few of those bodies. I'm interested to hear your take on some of those new players that are going to be a part of what is a successful program on the cross country side.
Well, on the men's side, we lost Hillary Kamayo, who's been around us for quite a while and won a couple of championships with us, and Hob Tamugeta So two of our top guys, Hobb was our top guy at the conference championship last year. Those guys are difficult to replace, but I think we've done a good job. We got a transfer from Alabama, Alan Kiplagat, who's a real good steeplechase guy. Is a freshman in cross country, so hasn't really proved himself yet. So we got some young guys trying to prove themselves, and then Jacinto Gaspar from junior college. He was a 29-20 10K guy on the track, so legitimate marks on the track, and was with a pretty successful junior college program, and so we look for him to come in and do some things. And then a few of our other guys from last year, Carmelo Canizaro and Juan Lucas de la Fuente. We're hoping to get them progress. We'll slowly progress throughout the season. We usually start off a little bit slow. And then on the women's side, losing Purity Sanga, losing your true number one is obviously, again, hard to replace. But we've done a good job recruiting. In January, Odelia Jepchumba just loves running, which is amazing to have. And if you look at Faith Nyathi from where she was her first year with us, she went from 36 minutes in 10K to 33 minutes this year. So I had huge improvements from one season of being with us. And so I only expect her cross country to be even better. And then we have a transfer, the Conference USA champion in the 10K from UTEP, Sandra Miles here. Game changers. She's also a freshman. Then Nancy Mile, who was a scorer in the 10K in Conference USA, progressed and got in our top 5 list of all time for a 10K run. And 34s as a freshman is pretty solid. And so the depth is there. Then you got Eleanor Tao coming back, who had a phenomenal freshman year. And then Privilege Chikara that came out of junior college. It's also another threat. We'll see how she does in cross country. She really hasn't had the development yet, so not sure whether she's ready for this or not, but she's a real good track runner. So 800, 1500 meter runner. So that team is the best group of ladies I've ever had at MTSU.
Well, I'm mostly using this as a soundbite for a pronunciation key whenever I start doing my Raider wrap-ups later on in the year for you guys. So that's great information from that perspective. But to cut us back to the cross country talk, I mentioned there how successful you've had. 4 men's titles recently and 5 women's titles. How are you able to be so successful at that specific sport that is cross country, which is it's the 8K for the men, and is it 6K for women? How are you able to be so successful at that year in and year out?
Not easy. Hardest part is just trying to get them all ready at the right time. So actually a couple of years ago when we lost, if you look at my odd and even years, usually we win on the odd years and lose on the even years. But 2 years ago it's about adjustments. That's what I'm kind of getting to. But 2 years ago we lost them both, and the focus wasn't there. There was a lot of issues. I mean, that was the year Coach Hayes died as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that come into play that year, but they just weren't focused. Maybe I screwed up training a little bit, but it's really hard to try to narrow it down. So I can be honest with you, I took that season, I went back and looked at it and made an adjustment later in the season. It was basically the same group of athletes, and that adjustment for last year worked out. I mean, the adjustments you have to make, and I don't write up a whole season plan. I probably throw it out every year because I usually change it and adjust it based on where the team's at and where the team's going and how they're reacting to the training. It's very difficult to get 5 people going at the same time. And other coaches find that, and they ask me, how do you do it? I don't really have the right answer for you. It's not easy. And, keeping them healthy is not an easy task as well, because we're running a lot, training hard. And we try to stay healthy. I mean, these trophies you see behind me in the trophy case there, I mean, they were won with 5 or 6 athletes. So that means everybody stays healthy because you score 5. And this year, we have a little bit more than 5. Our rosters are a little bit bigger. And so hopefully it becomes easier. I don't know if it will or not. I still got to get 5 to go at the same time. And it's I call it, there's another interview from several years ago. I call it the push-pull system. So I push them and then pull them back and then push them. And you gotta learn how to push them and pull them at the right time, I guess would be the right answer.
Well, that's kind of one part I want to touch on as far as the training aspect goes. When you're talking about these athletes and getting things fine-tuned, because some days your best isn't the best you needed for that particular tournament or that particular race per se. I want to know, again, how do you fine tune these guys when you're talking about the variables that are changing? Are there any certain areas that you find are more successful when you alter those variables, say the volume of training that they're doing, or sometimes is it nutrition? I'm just interested, and you may even tell me that it varies from individual to individual.
Well, it definitely varies from individual to individual. But I guess really the bigger thing on that is that in our sport, the good thing with our sport is I can lose every race all season long and have bad days all season long, and it all matters on that one day. And so sometimes I'm training through some of the races. A lot of the races we do, we're not fresh at all. I'm well known to do a workout the day before we actually compete. But I do a lot of doubling up on workouts a lot of times to go back to back to try to put more stress on them and then see how they respond to that and see how long it takes them to recover. So the recovery aspect of it is based on how much mileage and how much work they've done over the summer and throughout the year. So you recover faster if you've done more volume of training. So if you've done, even if it's just cardio, even if it's just riding bike, extra cardio. So it's basically, the Japanese call it time on your feet. But so it's the time on your feet, you can recover better. And then you'll get some that don't train as hard as they should over the summer. And then a coach gets frustrated and some coaches get mad and pound the miles. My philosophy is more that I need to give you more rest between the hard days. And I kind of learned that young in my coaching career when I had just 1 or 2 good athletes and they didn't train over the summer and they didn't have the volume. But if I were to wait, so if I do a workout on Monday, I usually probably couldn't get another workout till Thursday or Friday, and then just take that time of doing easier cardio running, or cardio riding a bike, or we have boost treadmills now. So doing something different than just running and be able to do those workouts is beneficial. And some of them would probably tell you I push them a little bit too hard, but that's part of the job. But you got to get them. You got to have rest. Have 5-10 minutes rest is one of them. And I give them a day off every week, which may not seem like a lot to some, but I do give them a day off every week, guaranteed. And so they got to get rested up to be able to go again. And then go again. And some of them will, and then the other piece is some of them will race harder than they will do workouts. So they'll race real hard, but then they won't be able to do a workout on Monday or Tuesday when I want to do it. And I just kind of let that stuff go until the end of the season and try to put it together. And my main focus is getting the workouts in. And our workouts are tough. I mean, we do 10 miles worth of workouts and stuff like that. So on the men's side and on the women's side, I guess you could say we probably go up to 8, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad it's them, not me, as I would say. But Coach, as we wrap up our call here, I want to hear from you the expectation, and you touched on it too. I had it noted that you're really successful in the odd number years. This is a 2024 year. So tell me your expectations. Should we expect another sweep this year? Or are we going to fall victim to the even number years? What do you see with this group?
You're putting the stress on me now. Yeah, I mean, Liberty's tough on both the men and the women. I don't know if I'm going to give props to a lot of other teams, get from live or not, but Liberty's tough, both men and women. And it'll probably be just like it was last year. It'll be a battle between the two of us. New Mexico State was involved last year. They lost 4 of their top 5 runners, so I'm not sure that they're going to be there this year unless I haven't seen it yet. Maybe they will, but they lost 4 of their top 5, which is tough to replace. On the men's last year, it was just a shootout between us and Liberty. And I think you'll find that again this year on the men. And just got to get them ready. I've seen some good things in practice, so we'll see if we can get it done.
Absolutely. Well, he's a man that's short and quick to the point, but I think we can all read it that he's confident in his team and with a lot to be excited about. But, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time this fall and again, taking time away from the family. So tell the wife I appreciate you taking the time to be here, and we'll see you when indoor track and field comes around.
All right. Thank you.
Did you know the Blue Raider podcast has an online store? You can now support your favorite podcast by checking out our selection at our website, blueraiderpodcast.com. And stay tuned for new merchandise releases as we collaborate with athletes in NIL partnerships.
Wrapping things up as we move into our Behind Enemy Lines segment, where we take a peek at this week's opponent on the gridiron. Joining as a representative for Tennessee Tech is longtime radio and television play-by-play voice for the Golden Eagles. You can hear his coverage on 106.1 The Eagle this weekend. I'm happy to have Dylan Vazzano. How's it going, Dylan?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on. Excited, obviously. We got football, so let's get going.
Absolutely, yeah. And this new segment that we're premiering this year on the podcast is, as it sounds, we're just trying to get a little insight into the Golden Eagles ahead of this matchup, and it's going to be quite a year for the Golden Eagles as they have a new head coach. I'm interested. You've been there at fall camp. You've been able to speak with him. Tell me how Coach Wilder is rubbing off there in Cookeville.
Yeah, I think there's a different energy. There's just a different look and feel. Like, obviously, it comes down to what you do on the field and how you perform and wins and losses and everything like that. But if you could give a grade for an off season and the transition coming and being the head coach now at Tennessee Tech, I mean, you got to go A+. He has said all the right things. He has done all the right things. He brings kind of a presence there. He talks a lot about, Coach Wilder, the process of winning. And you saw it early on in the spring. You saw it early on with the 6 a.m. workouts and in the weight room. And he discusses the idea of stacking days and kind of the details that it takes to be able to win and excel on the football field. And so everything that he has said, the energy that he brings, you hear the word culture a lot. He understands the assignment. He has obviously had success at Old Dominion. He had success at the FCS level. I think that a lot of people around Cookeville and around Tennessee Tech athletics are just chomping at the bit because of how well everything has gone for Coach Wilder and everything that he has said and done. It's just, the last thing to do is just see how it comes together, but a lot of confidence going into the year because of Coach.
And you could draw so many similarities for what's going on in Murfreesboro as what's going on in Cookeville. We both have new coaches, and even the career of the coaches themselves. Like you talked about Wilder at Old Dominion, familiar face to MTSU fans back when Old Dominion was in Conference USA. But, he premiered, he won a Bahamas Bowl as a part of that transitional period for the Monarchs, and then things kind of dwindled off, and he lost his opportunity there, and now he's trying to make anew. And as you look at that similarities there, he's going back to the FCS level. And I'm curious to see where your take is on that, because, again, coaching from the FBS to the FCS, there are a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. So as far as, his culture, as you say, how is he able to transition back to the FCS?
I think one of the things that, and he said this in his opening introductory press conference, was he's talking about the similarities. Ironically, I'm pretty sure Coach Mason, Coach Wilder had their press conference the exact same day. So that's a kind of a little unique thing going on there. But I think that he embraces FCS football. He had talked about, obviously, when you think about bowls and having to have a good enough record to make a bowl, and then that's kind of it. I think he said in his press conference how he likes the idea of the way FCS is formatted. Like, if you keep winning, you're going to keep playing within the playoffs. Obviously, we see it now a little bit more with the 12-team playoff in FBS, but he embraced that format, and you get this sense that he enjoys it and wants to be a part of this level, that this isn't something like, oh, okay, it's cool to be FCS, but I've got eyes on an FBS situation down the line. No, like this is where he wants to be. And I think that step number one is embracing that, which he has done up to this point. So I think that the players can feel that energy, feel that vibe, and understand what is cool about FCS is the fact that it is a playoff system. So if you find a way to make the playoffs, you kind of control your own destiny, where you don't necessarily see that in the FBS level because, as we just said, only 12 teams make it, which is, of course, new this year. But having that playoff system is one of the really cool and unique features of football at this level.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk about Wilder, and one of his biggest decisions coming up is going to be the quarterback situation. I know if you look at Tennessee Tech, you talk about Jordan Potts and how he finished the year, because the Golden Eagles didn't really have a quarterback at the beginning of last season, but now you've got him as well as Dylan Liable, a Missouri transfer, national junior college runner-up. He has quite the pedigree, so I'm interested to hear your take, because I know they had a scrimmage recently and both performed.
Yeah, they did. And I think that at this point, we kind of don't know exactly which way that's going to go. And that's the fun part about it, is it's still 2 weeks out. You look at Liable and what he brings to the table, and he looks the part. I mean, 6'4", big arm. He could throw the ball down the field. Missouri obviously didn't get the opportunity to play there, but you look at what he did at the junior college level, Hutchinson out in Kansas. I mean, that's a very strong program. I think that people who are familiar with the landscape of college football have heard that name before, have heard that college, and the fact that they were the junior college runner-ups in 2022. So one of the things that you hear about him that Coach Wilder said, he was just quoted at our gathering of Eagles the other night, which is kind of like the end of the fall camp. We're down to the wire. We're starting to get ready for the season. He says he just keeps getting better, and you can see it every day in practice. So obviously what he brings as more of a prototypical quarterback with a big arm. Jordan Potts, on the other hand, athletic. He can move around. He makes plays with his legs. He also has that experience, having gone 6 games last year. He started toward the tail end of the year, really midway through the tail end of the year, as he documented. So he understands how to play in the conference, in the Ohio Valley Big South Conference, understands what it takes to win. He had some success. So I think you have that experience with Potts, which is a good thing. And it's just going to be exciting to see as we get closer to the game and to the start of the season, who's actually going to be out there when it's time to play.
And another dynamic too is the threats that your quarterbacks have to throw to. You're bringing in a lot of transfers out there. Another one that's familiar with MTSU is going to be Jordan Yates, who is just recently named captain. I saw the release on the Tech website there. He's an athlete, didn't necessarily get the playing time at Sam Houston, but he's an athlete. Sam Houston was riddled with them. But I want to hear from that perspective, does that change anything? Because I know that both of those quarterbacks provide something a little bit different, but the having different weapons, or I would say improved weapons at the wide receiver position, could kind of alter that decision as well.
And you think that in this day and age with the transfer portal, and it is cool to have somebody like a Jordan Yates, who is his first year at Tennessee Tech and was named captain. And we only have Tennessee Tech does one offensive captain, and it was him. And the fact that he has quarterback experience at Georgia Tech, he played quarterback. So I think with the nature of that position, you're more than likely going to be a leader. DJ Lincolns is a guy, a transfer from New Hampshire. That's where the new Tennessee Tech offensive coordinator, Brian Scott, came from. So they have a relationship there. Jay Parker, Western Illinois. He's another potential weapon. I mean, he started his career at Austin Peay. I don't even know how this is possible, but he's been playing college football since 2018. So you talk about a lot of experience. I think, though, that is from, you talk about the quarterback decision, you talk about these new weapons. There's just a lot of uncertainty because we haven't seen them here with the Golden Eagles. We haven't seen how they will perform. Coach Wilder is an offensive guy. He had so much success at Old Dominion, up tempo. They put a lot of points on the board. So I think that there's a lot of intrigue in that. You can see on paper a lot of these weapons and their potential, but there's only one way to find out for sure. Whereas defensively, a lot of returning talent. So I think we maybe know what to expect a little bit more in that regard. But you take what Coach Wilder brings to the table, you take the resumes of a lot of these new additions, and there's reason for optimism offensively.
And take off that a little bit, your transition there to defense. You talk about the talent that you returned there. The interior of that front seven is going to be one of the best, not only in the Big South OVC conference or however they want to word it, but the FCS as well. I mean, that's a strong unit. You talk about Austin Swafford, that's going to be there. Daniel Rickert, that's another kid, local kid. Tell me about that front seven that's going to be real tough to run the ball against.
Well, that was the bread and butter for the Golden Eagles last season. Obviously, anytime you have a coaching change and you look at the record from Tennessee Tech, you'll think, oh, okay, I guess it didn't work out just overall. But really, defensively, that was one of the best units, not just in the conference, but in FCS, because there is a lot of experience. And it starts up front, like you documented. When you think of a Daniel Rickert, who was named captain, you think of Swafford at the linebacker position, captain. Hudson Tucker, who had 6 sacks last year as well on that defensive line. There was a chance to get to the quarterback a lot last year. Those players are only going to get better with another year under their belt. Sam Williamson, who's just an awesome coach, defensive line coach. He's been with the Golden Eagles forever. He's in his 18th season. Everybody loves playing for him. He brings an energy. He's able to develop that sort of talent. And you and I both know defense starts up front, and anytime you can bring pressure, Tennessee Tech was able to do that a lot last year. So I think that when Coach Wilder, that was one of the things that he mentioned when he took this job, that he loved defensively the potential of this team, his role offensively to bring in all that talent to scheme and make it work in a certain way. But because you're bringing back all of those players who had just awesome years last year, you would think going into the season, there's no reason to believe that you can't have a duplicate performance that we saw in 2023 defensively.
And to build on that too, I know you also returned an All-American in the secondary.
Yeah, Tim Kutras, and he, a ball hawk, sort of a safety. He hits hard as well. He had 4 interceptions last year. Again, experience. He's somebody who's played a lot of college football, and I think that's important. He was named a captain as well. So you have the 3 captains of Swafford, Rickert, and Kutras on the defensive side of the equation. So anytime you're able to get that pressure up front, it makes things easier for the secondary. But Tim Kutras, preseason All-American. I mean, that's somebody that Tech should lean heavy on this season. And like I just said, with some of the other players up front, there's no reason to think that he's not going to have an awesome year as well.
One thing to appreciate about the upcoming matchup on MTSU side of things is the fact that we're going to be playing up against, as you mentioned, a top FCS defensive program. I think it's great for MTSU's perspective because we have a lot of question marks on our offensive side of things. So that's going to be a great test for Bodie Reeder and Derek Mason alike. And that we talked about the good. I want to hear a little bit about some of the bad with Tennessee Tech. One thing that I did catch my eye when I was reading through some of the media releases was at the first scrimmage of fall camp, 30 guys sat that one out, whether it was for soft tissue or for rest or for whatever it may be. You can't help but think that could be a glaring issue. Is that something that maybe Wilder's taking an approach of, let's just load management is kind of the fancy word we use nowadays, or are they really running that thin at this late in fall?
Yeah, I think that obviously you hear his quotes, in some of the releases that you read online, and then also just some of the videos that he put out after the last scrimmage, which was on Saturday. Not great. You don't obviously like to hear 30 players going into a season, but I do think that the saving grace and kind of the good news in that is, hey, we're still like 2 weeks away. I think a lot of uncertainty. We don't know exactly who the players are. We don't necessarily know how bad some of these injuries are, but there's no doubt about it that the number 30 jumps out at you. And to have it happen this late in camp, still that situation going on. But I think one of the great things about Coach Wilder is I don't see him using that as necessarily an excuse that, hey, look, you still have to go out there with who you have. And he talks about the process of winning, and it's just part of the game. It's football. And if it's going to happen, you like to see it still 2 weeks out. And we'll just kind of see going in that first game against Middle what it exactly looks like. And I think I'm kind of as interested as everybody is. Okay, who is it exactly and how bad is it? And, only time will tell.
Absolutely, and it's going to be an exciting matchup coming up this Saturday with a great environment, I'm sure, with people traveling from Cookeville, plenty of talent from the mid-state represented on both sides. It's going to be, like I said, a really exciting environment, tailgating scene there. They're doing a party in the Grove. For those that might be coming down to Cookeville, check out the new thing that MTSU is doing. Derek Mason's been a lot to spearhead a lot of those things. But before we finish up our call here, Dylan, I want to hear your perspective. It's going to be a tough matchup, no doubt, for the Golden Eagles. I want to know, what would it take for them to pull one out here in Murfreesboro?
Yeah, I think for starters, there's a lot of excitement going into this game. I mean, this is my 12th season at Tennessee Tech, and when I first got here in the first few years, all you heard about was, well, Middle Tennessee and Tennessee Tech, huge rivalry, and I was like, okay, I guess that the proximity, and then you realize, no, wait, they used to both be in the OVC, and all you have to do is YouTube Tennessee Tech, Middle Tennessee men's basketball, and you will see some wild videos. I encourage everybody to do that and understand the nature of this rivalry, which is, of course, something that I didn't really understand because the two schools really don't play each other outside of, okay, baseball a lot. I know women's basketball familiar, but football, 12th season, I haven't seen it. So I think, first of all, from that perspective, there is a lot of excitement and energy for this game. There's a lot of people within the Tennessee Tech athletic department that are juiced about the prospects of getting the chance to play Middle. Aware, though, Middle, an FBS team, Tennessee Tech, an FCS team. So you go into a game like this and the road is steep. You understand you're going to get a paycheck as well, and that certainly helps the program. And then the Golden Eagles the very next week are playing number 1 in FBS, Georgia. And then after that, you get the open date. You can kind of reset, reshift, go into FCS games the rest of the way. But to answer your question, I think number 1, there's got to be a belief. Like, yeah, everybody knows the tall task ahead anytime there's an FCS school playing an FBS school. But if you don't believe that you can accomplish it, if you don't believe if you go into a game, it doesn't matter who you're playing. You have to go in. Like, we can do this. We can accomplish this. So I think that for starters, there has to be belief. And I think Coach Wilder, he does a great job with that because of how confident and of a person and a coach that he is. But then you take it kind of to the next step. You have to play a near flawless game. I think you have to limit your mistakes, make Middle earn every single thing. Don't set them up with turnovers and a short field and hope that if you can somehow, some way keep it close, that the pressure would shift to Middle. First game, they obviously are the favorite against an FCS school, new coach, home game. So you would think that if you can maybe limit the mistakes early, have a break, go your way, something like that, that you would have an opportunity, and that as the game goes, maybe the pressure shifts to them. I think for Tennessee Tech, then you get a little bit more X's and O's. Defensively was a lot of the things that we talked about, and you hope that a lot of the people up front, and then Tim Kutrus in the secondary, you make a play and maybe get a key turnover in a big spot and a break your way. And then at that point, see where the chips fall and kind of go from there. A lot of excitement and a lot to look forward to, and we'll see what happens on the field.
Absolutely. A great insight there from Dylan Vazzano. Again, play-by-play, you can hear him on 106.1. The Eagle this weekend from those listening in Cookeville as well, and surrounding areas. Dylan, again, I absolutely appreciate you coming on and talking about your Golden Eagles.
Hey, thanks, man. Anytime. Had a blast. And, can't wait for the game.
Thanks for sticking around to the Raider wrap-up portion of the episode where we will review last week's scores from around the athletic department as well as look ahead into next week's schedule. We'll get right into the action talking about the Lady Raider soccer program who went 1-1 on the week. They dropped their Thursday road contest in Lafayette, Louisiana against the Raging Cajuns by a score of 1-5. Risui Arasaki got her first career goal as a Lady Raider in that 1-5 loss. And then on Sunday, the Lady Raiders got their first win on the season against the Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles. Emma Pedersen scored her second goal of the season in the 10th minute with an assist from Idun Kavale. Then Manon Labarge got her first goal of the season at the 16th minute to take a quick 2-0 lead. Tennessee Tech would get a goal before the half, making it 2-1, but it was Idun Kavale in the 70th minute to push out a 3-1 lead before finally wrapping up the match with a 3-2 victory. I give my player of the week to Idun Kavale because with that goal and assist on Emma Pedersen's goal in the 10th minute. Their upcoming schedule this week, they are at home against North Alabama on Thursday, the 29th, and that starts at 7 p.m. And then on Sunday, another home match against Bellarmine on the 1st, and that begins at 1 p.m. Volleyball season finally starts with their official matches after a 4-0 win against Belmont in an exhibition match this last Saturday. They will travel all the way to Bozeman, Montana at host school Montana State. They will face off against Power 4 team Washington to start their season on the 31st on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. local Central Time. And then on Sunday, they will face host school Montana State on the 1st, and that is at 12 noon. And then last in action is cross country. We were able to preview them today, and we look forward to their season beginning this Saturday as well, all the way down in Memphis. And then Memphis Twilight Classic hosted by Christian Baptist University. One of the few matches before their conference championship is they only have 4 throughout the season, so we look forward to seeing the results and the new look team as we were able to preview in today's episode. So that does it for the Raider wrap-up portion. I appreciate you again for sticking around to the end to hear about our Raiders in action this last week. Again, congratulations to our winner of our raffle for the giveaway for this upcoming Saturday matchup. If you saw your name there at the beginning, it's all post-edited, but it'll be there. So you have 24 hours to respond to that, or we will draw it all over again. So I want to make sure we get those tickets to the right home before that matchup on Saturday. But to go ahead and preview our next episode after our first game on Tuesday morning, I will have Shane Pickering, a Go Middle football analyst. We'll talk about what happened on Saturday's matchup with Tennessee Tech. Look forward to that one, as well as we will have on Manna Labarge, who I just mentioned there for the Lady Raider soccer program. We will have her on, and we'll talk about her All-Conference USA preseason pick. And then finally wrapping it up, we'll speak with Michael Katz, Ole Miss beat writer for the Rebels, to discuss our upcoming matchup there in Oxford. So next week, another exciting episode. We get to break down all the stuff from this first football game this Saturday, as well as look forward to next Saturday's football game. So I look forward to it, and I appreciate everyone sticking along for this amount of time, and I will see you guys next week. And until then, go Blue.